I'm that girl who loves to help their friends who are confused. Welcome, Erin.
Hi. Oh, bless you and your patience.
Well, I'm not. I understand that my over mansplaining it when they give it to us, it seems so like, of course, this is the situation, and then we listen to it and go, oh yeah, well that makes total sense. But then we have to apply the information and understand it. And sometimes when we get what we think is new information, it feels like, oh my gosh, this is a whole different piece of the puzzle. Are we still even working on the same puzzle pieces together? And so you've just listened to the last session where I tried to horrifically mansplain why there is the delays on the shift and what collectives are being vulnerable to more manipulation and control, and it's not who we always think it is going to be. So where are you stuck and how can I help you? I'm going to try my best.
Okay, thanks. So I guess my first question is, there's a delay of some sort. I wasn't aware of that even.
Well, it's kind of slowed down. They're not in this massive rush to shift everyone because they are wanting to get this right, and they have worked so hard on this. It is like they're perfectionists. We think we're perfectionists with what we want to do and how we want the world. They have more things that they want to get right and make sure it is completely unfolded, experienced, learnt, grown from all of that stuff that they always tell us to before they will get the next step. And so all of those people who are like, "Ugh, I don't want to be of service, yuck, hideous. I'll leave it to someone else." Your teams are waiting for you to be of service so we can help those people who are stuck, who are in fear, who are challenged, who haven't. The reason why we want to help others is to empower others to be able to start speaking their own truths and start stopping from blindly following to stop and find their own moral compass, find their own guides, find their own connections, find their own directions of what is should be working for them, and empowering them to not follow the leader. Because ultimately when we follow leaders, how does it work out for humanity? And all we've seen in history is people following other agendas, which we think is labeling to empower us, support us, blah 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 blah, and in or reality, when in hindsight, it's not actually been empowering humanity. It's got that tricky other agenda to disempower humanity, and we see in all industries, all aspects, to some degree, there is always that underlining current of how can we disempower humanity to distract itself from evolution and growing.
hmm Yeah, and I myself have fallen guilty into the thought process of like we're the only collective, and we're not. And I own it. And it just never occurred to me that I feel half guilty about it, honestly, but that there are other susceptible experiences besides our own. And so, I mean, that kind of blew my mind too. And of course, the whole experience is valid for everyone in every collective. I just kind of
Yeah.
ashamed of my selfishness, honestly. But
Okay, so
big
can we
info.
just stop there? Pull the pin out, remove that guilt because you just didn't know. It is kind of like saying, you feel guilty for your journey, but the realization of we have to be growing along, and any guilt that we give ourselves, or any ridicule, or any judgment that we give ourselves, kind of slips us back. So respect and trust. We know now differently, and we are not ashamed to say it. I mean, I also did think, that all the bad people are going to not hell but to old earth. So silly me. But I know differently now. So with that new growth and wisdom, how am I applying it to be able to see things from that bigger perspective of neutrality and be more mature and stop name calling and stop seeing, ultimately when you add all of the collectives together, they all want the same thing. the majority all want the same thing. And even within those collectives that are slow to get on board with the same thing, there are still some in the collectives that are trying to make this. This is why when we're in our sleep state and we're working and we're always in these big meetings and we are all collectively working together to find out how can we help all in this experience learn and grow from it. Because from an intellectual level and from a metaphysical level, it's all totally fine, it's all perfect, there's no worries. But as we are slowly experiencing it in the physical, to learn those feelings, to be able to understand and appreciate what our actions could have reactions to other people and how they would feel. And it's all about feelings and emotions and blah 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 blah. Okay, so I will shut up and I'll listen to what questions you have about that last information.
Okay, so there's a change of pace because there is a susceptibility to a very brave collective that is really growing quite a bit in this old earth experience, but in that they are being vulnerable. And there are others who want to kind of take over that experience selfishly, and that is judgmental. I'm 3D. But am I understanding that right? So because of that, the collectives are working very hard to make sure it's a growth experience for all and it doesn't get like encaptured by someone or some people.
Yes, it feels like our collectives are wanting to assist all of the collectives to be able to have the best experiences, and what we deem as the best may be very limited 3D perspective, but from their perspective they know what is best in terms of hardships. We think, oh, this is so horrible that we're experiencing these hardships, and they say, isn't that great, isn't that the best experience for you? And we're like, are you mental? No, this is hard. And they're like, you can overcome this. This is experiences that you need to, this is the best experience. You get to fully live it, be in it, be surrounded by it, be so convinced that your whole life is like on that hinge point of this experience. And so you're taking it really seriously. It's got your full attention. And that is the best for them because we get so distracted. And so, yes.
So, great. So question. You said in a major timeline that was a probability of that happening, or they foresaw it happening. So am I understanding that the way you said it? So because of that, pump the brakes, let's reevaluate, let's...
Yes. Yes. So so we've already passed that timeline where we could have think of it as like we're on a train and there's all of these train stops, and when you stop at a certain train stop and you get out and explore that town, you've created that pathway of that timeline. And so we sort of went to the stop, we all got off, most of us shifted, and those who were still on the train experiencing the earth journey, it didn't go well. For the majority, it wasn't the best. It wasn't for their highest good. And so they were like, oh no, we did not plan for this. We did not foresee this eventuating. And so they like pull it back. So it's kind of like they rewound time. And then they grabbed us all back from shifting, and then now we're not going to take that exit, we're going to then move down the track of it more. And it's like when I was sort of saying how they want to, when they complete the book, the history of Earth, we're still working through that, and so they're still trying to figure out how is the best closure, the best conclusion for the Earth experience. And so they are making sure that it's the best. Again, we may be traumatized by what the best will be, but that is for our own lessons and growth and experiences and very purposeful. But truly, nothing traumatizes our souls. It's our perception of our emotions that get traumatized. And as soon as we're out of these bodies, out of these lives, we see things from their perspective because we're once again back at that higher perspective.
I look forward to that. I'm
In
like,
the meantime, yeah.
what?
Yes, and this is why they have that luxury of telling us it's all fine. Step up, empower each other. And when they kind of broke it down to mansplain to us what being of service is, which is being just a bloody good, kind, loving, compassionate humanitarian, it's like, oh, we've been doing this most of our lives. But we can't truly do that when we haven't been loving ourselves and we're afraid and we've got all of that baggage because we are too afraid to even have a conversation with a stranger because, well, what if they yell at me? Did you die if they yell at you? But we're so afraid that it will be, oh, so embarrassing. She yelled at me and three people looked at me. Was it a death stare? I mean, have we had other lifetimes where we were killed by being looked at? I have to
Oh,
say, what
yeah.
I'm starting to become afraid of, Erin, well, not afraid, it's a dramatic word, but what I'm being concerned of is that I'm getting so neutral in acceptance of everything that I'm not really reacting to the emotions. And I'm kind of just seeing things from
Hmm.
that bigger picture. So it's just like that blanket all, you know. And I remember when we
Feel
did that.
like an a-hole, don't you? I know. I've experienced the same thing. I'm like, this is theater, and I'm like, oh wait, but I mean, it's playing to a little bit more though, and like not everyone knows it's theater.
It's so tempting sometimes to just dive into the dramatics of all the range of emotions and feel into them. And I almost feel like, when they keep referring to that big buffet and they're like, don't process the whole buffet, just take little bite sizes of it, don't overwhelm. And sometimes when I feel like I'm like this deep in like the dramas and the emotions, I feel like I'm doing this at the buffet.
Yeah, with
Um,
the tummy ache. Yeah.
yeah, so they're great at reminding me of how to approach things from that neutral and that balance. Um, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, so yes, I feel like so yesterday at the park, I went to grab something from the car and I walked past this woman and sort of said how what a beautiful day it was, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm going back to work tomorrow, and she randomly just messages just states so many extra deaths in the ocean at the moment. Lots of people are drowning. Isn't it a big tragedy? And I just thought, wonder where this is going. um, and I said, yeah, I don't really know if I really can I don't know if I really can believe that New Zealanders are dying at bigger rates with drowning, given that we are, you know, um, we're not. I just sort of question the narrative. Is it really drowning? Because I also know that we're classifying deaths quite differently now. And I said, for an example, I know that suicides are now classified as accidental deaths. And she's like, well, my brother committed suicide, 15 years ago, and it definitely wasn't an accident. And I was saying, it's really hard for me to buy into the narratives of what we're being told of what's happening around our country, especially when it comes to deaths. It's very questionable for me right now. And then she sort of went off on this big tangent, and it was all good, and I could listen to her, and then I just pulled back that conversation of, so in terms of your brother, how did you process it? Do you believe in reincarnation? And I was like, oh my god, listen to me pulling out the big R word, reincarnation. And then she just went into this big, no, I don't believe in reincarnation, I don't believe in God. And then just kind of, and that's all fine, so it was just a lovely conversation, but I'm wondering what she took away from that. And once again, the most bizarrest conversations with people, but again, it's that supporting, listening, hearing, and being able to speak my truth. And there was no conflict at all. It was actually a really pleasant conversation, but I felt like I sowed so many seeds for her to make her stop and question, do we believe the narrative of all these drownings? Do we believe in the narrative of we can't label suicides as suicides anymore? And what is that thing about reincarnation? I mean, I also said that I didn't believe that there was a one being as a god, that I believe that there was, and from my understanding, limited it may be, that it's a whole bunch of consciousnesses which form one. So it is one being, it is one entity, but I mean, it could be called God, if you will, but it's a much bigger conversation to have than just a brief, single, serving connection.
Yeah. And that's potentially a whole new narrative that she's not heard before, and maybe that's why she's not resonating with anything. Maybe that was the one.
Yeah.
Never know. But I mean, lots of breadcrumbs there. Good job.
Well, she was sort of saying she's got, she wants to, she can't wait for next year because she's going to retire and that's when she's going to enjoy her life. And I just say, we can enjoy it daily. We can enjoy the blessings that we have daily. Why wait for next year? Why wait for the retirement? We can, appreciate things. And do we really need to wait until you're 40 or 65 to be able to enjoy your life? So, it's so, I just felt like I was just throwing seeds out there. And what she sort of said to me, because I said, "Oh, what are your children's?" Because she's like, "Oh, I've got older children," and I said, "What are your children feeling about the narrative?" And she's like, "Oh, my daughter is in Melbourne, Australia, and she's so lucky. She hasn't got COVID, but yet all her clients have got clients because she's a health person, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, so what are the clients experiencing?" When they've got these, when they've got COVID, what is the symptoms and how are they processing it? And she's like, oh, they're not. It's a nothing. It's really a nothing. And she's so surprised. It's a nothing. It's like they're fine within a few days. And I'm like, isn't that strange?
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? I wonder what those lockdowns were about.
Yeah, so
purposeful.
Totally,
Let's use their word.
I know. And I have to say, when people approach me and when we're having these conversations, I just think, oh, their teams are really wanting them to start having a different approach because this can't shut up now. As we've experienced, this cannot hold back her truth. And, I am very comfortable having these conversations. And I'm really proud of myself for being able to listen to other people's approaches without feeling defensive that I've got to prove my point or all this sort of stuff. I feel so comfortable in just questioning the narratives that it's making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is growth, as we've learned throughout listening to your channel. That is growth.
So that's being of service. A few conversations a day and it being nice and sowing those seeds of hope and positivity and love and excitement and making her catch herself when she's saying, I'll enjoy my life next year.
Yeah.
So getting back to the confusion, I know timelines are really frustrating, but they have so much control to be able to make sure we have the best experience for all. And I will personally apologize on behalf of the collectors for those people who feel pissed off that they were ready to go years ago and they're just waiting. Sorry about it, but it's more to be of service for all than just supporting individual people. And if you truly are desperately wanting to exit and you're not being of service, there's going to be things your teams are going to be doing to help you with that approach.
Ooh, thanks. Excuse me. So I think you said in that video, I'm trying to think of what you said, like we need to love all, right? All. But how can we as humanitarians help those that will be, the reptilian starseeds? Like what can we do besides send them love, besides be neutral, besides not being judgmental, encouraging? Like what more could we do?
I think that's it. Love them, respect them, understand that they have their own choices, they have their own free will. We can't impose our own judgments onto them. We can share our thoughts and feelings, but remember, all collectives have different needs and different wants and different desires for these earth experiences. Many people assume, oh, if you're a reptilian starseed, then you're doing rituals and sacrifices, and you're evil and you're demons and blah 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 blah. Okay, so it doesn't
Ugh.
instantly just drop our energy and just go. You're not even seeing the life contract of this being who is representing a collective who is wanting a true humanoid experience to be loved and respected. And it seems like when they're in their physical true forms of being the lizardy looking dinosaurs, I don't even know how to say what they are physically forms, that's so intimidating because it triggers many people, many different beings who have been traumatized because they've already had really horrific experiences from those visual beings. And so now, when we just look all normal and human, and that and with the veil, we can just respect each other without even knowing what collectives. It shouldn't even matter. And honestly, to define who you are and who they are and who this sort of stuff, it kind of distracts us and then makes us try to be put in boxes. Oh, well, my collective thinks your collective's shit. Like, no, my friends, that's not.
Yeah.
And so we're all in the same sandpit, we're all in the same playground, we're all supposed to be sharing and respecting. And again, I'm not endorsing bad behavior. It's more like, let's empower each other to be the best versions of self. Let's empower each other to respect each other, because if we don't love ourselves, chances are we're not showing people how to respect us, because we can't even respect ourselves. And so being of true honesty in terms of doing our own inner work, then we are setting the scene for others to see what we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate. And if I was a horrible person and I could tell that Erin would accept me being a horrible person because she's too polite to say, hey, bitch, you're horrible. Like, I would continue to be just revolting and horrible to her because I can get away with it. And haven't we all allowed people with bad behavior to get away with it? And right now, in my judgmental opinion, lots of professionals are getting away with bad behavior and changing the narrative so it's just empowering humanity with nonsense and disinformation, and we have been letting them get away with it. And so, because we don't like to be like, oh, I'm sorry, people, but this is not my belief system. This is not my research. This is not my understanding, blah, 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 blah. So we have suppressed ourselves so much that we can barely share our thoughts on anything. We can't even own what we believe. And we're almost like, I think maybe blah, blah, blah. And this
Oh,
is
I know.
the practice, is being comfortable and confident with what we believe and just sharing our love, because love feels so good. Love feels so good. Being positive, hopeful, trusting, having faith feels so good. Their inner peace just blooms out. And so um, I said the other day that the way that our vibration will match other people's vibrations, and we will lock in and be, besties and stuff, and really get each other while we're at that pace in this marathon race, right? But while we're at a high frequency vibrations, we are still attracting those lower vibrations as well, because this is it's like a spa day for them. It's a treat to feel the high frequency. And so often people will confuse that, because they will say, okay, well, I've worked really hard. I think I've worked really hard. And now I go to the supermarket and I'm just getting all these people who are super afraid, all these people who are so scared. Is that mirroring me? Is that where I'm at? Because I feel like I'm just surrounded with a lot of density, and that makes people get kind of worried, like, oh, maybe I'm not doing as good as I thought I was. But reality, those are those people to give us the because we are more high frequency, we should be able to support them, nurture them, and give them that. And so this, I think this is why the sessions are confusing, because there's so much information and there's so much to consider and ponder, but yet it's still super simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, like, I wonder how much we overcomplicate all this, because it really does boil down to just love, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is a very simple message, but we do seem to overcomplicate it lots of ways. Yeah.
Because it's so important to us, because we want to really get it right, that we overthink it, overanalyze it, and when it really boils down to just a summary, love is the key, respect all, respect yourself, and know the difference between empowering people, disempowering people, and enabling people. It really is that kind of summary, and I think they've tried to say it to us so many times, but when it's our daily practical experiences, sometimes we will still trip up, and we are learning to find the differences in each scenario.
Mm-hmm. Preach, sister.
So we're still here, we still have service, we now are fully firmly reminded of what we are supposed to be doing. Have you started the homework list, Erin, of doing your service to self, service to others, and who you are and what you sort of stand for? Have you been doing your homework?
No, but I will. Being honest, had a rough few days.
Okay, yep, and that is fine. And I know those people who have done it, profound. And it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be, you don't need to do like a big whiteboard marker and do a thesis of your life and your experiences and who you stand for, blah blah blah. It can be really simple, but actually knowing that you've got this list that you've spent a few minutes on, profound, powerful, and really boosts the person up. Not an ego, but more like, I am actually of value. And when we think that, we've got to somehow solve the mysteries of the universe and heal everyone and save everyone, when we realize what our responsibilities and what our capabilities and what our true calling is just to love and respect all and be able to give them a new narrative, maybe, without ramming it in their faces, so achievable.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. I like it. I'll do it, I promise.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you want that goal?
I know. I bet you were like, what? Erin didn't do a homework assignment? What?
I'm triggered. Okay, so has it helped you understand that if you go back and listen to it now, I'm sorry that it's such a ramble. I'm trying the best, but I also felt like this is going to really upset people if they don't remember how to apply the information and keep it in neutral.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a lot of, yeah, it was just a lot of information. I was like, wait, we're delayed? Wait, what? Wait, someone's susceptible? Wait, what? So yes, this definitely did help. Definitely.
Yeah, and like I'm not saying we're delayed for years. I don't know how long we're delayed for.
Yeah.
It's up to each individual person to be of service and help assist. And so it's not up to your neighbor or your someone else. We can only do the best that we can do in our worlds. Not trying to avoid people right now is probably, let's just be dramatic. Crimes against humanity. If you're trying to avoid people, this is a crime against humanity. No, I mean, I've tried to avoid people, absolutely. I've tried to just order things from home and not see people in person, and, because sometimes it is just too much. But now I realize the significance of just a small conversation that makes me feel like I have given these people a different narrative and perspective, and it's these conversations that need to start happening with much love and respect. And when I'm not trying to sell her something, but truly just offering her my opinion, take it or leave it, it's going to impact her and be able to, even if she went home and was like to her husband, oh my God, this total jerk I saw it. She was talking to me about reincarnation. These kind of hippies should be like, illegal, whatever, whatever. But like she'll still have this conversation, and maybe this is the conversation her husband needs to hear, because maybe he wants to have a conversation and follow on with it. Like, where did they get off with this reincarnation? And they'll be so disconnected with the conversation. They'll still talk about it. And when you start talking about something and it irritates you, you're getting triggered to be able to see things and be able to talk about this for whatever reason. So even if you don't feel like it was a very successful single serving conversation, we can't judge how the reactions of those seeds could unfold for them.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for explaining your
Any
last video.
any more confusion? Any more? Okay. Cool.
No, I think it's good. Bye, friends.